I happened to be looking at some land not far from where we are right now. And I thought, no, that doesn't feel good. So I walked across the road and came to walk on the rice fields where this building is now and what it was beforehand. And it was just straight out rice field. Rice was growing there. And as I stepped onto this rice field, I got the goosebumps up the back of my arm. And in turning around to see Lynn and say something to her, her statement to me was, I just got exactly the same.
Welcome back to the Pyramids Podcast. I'm your host, David Kahn, and I am sitting down with the one and only Peter McIntosh, founder of the Pyramids of Chi. Peter, it's great to have you in here today. I'm really thankful because I know you're currently working on something very special, and you kind of had yourself fully immersed in that project.
Well, Dave, thanks very much for this opportunity for the podcast. And yes, we're just putting our final edits to the book that nails the whole story here. Expect the unexpected. And thankfully, you sent me a message this morning saying, "Don't forget." I'm doing a little bit of a panic, saying, "Oh my God, yeah, that's right, I've committed there."
Yeah.
But look, I'm grateful for the opportunity of being here and talking with everybody that gets the opportunity to have a look at this podcast. And let's get into it.
Yes. I mean, really, there's two things that I see you do with amazing, excellence and enthusiasm, and that is greeting people and making them feel welcome here and telling amazing stories and being a great host for this space. I just have a curiosity is in writing and completing this book, do you feel it's sharpened your memory and your storytelling abilities?
Look, Dave, there's no doubt about it. And I appreciate your help in editing the book as well. And yes, it's we're up to about 200 pages, I think, now. And it's just every time I go back and do a little bit more re-editing myself, or Lynn, my beautiful wife, does, it just, wow, remember that time? Or remember this when that happened? Or remember that guy that had that particular healing? It just, sometimes in 10 years, things drift away from you.
Yeah.
But when you get the opportunity to recount it all, and I'm one of those people that keeps a diary. I have been doing so, forever. And it's great sometimes to go back through the diary and look at some of the points and see what's happened in a certain day, and then think, wow, yeah, we've got to make sure we put that in the book because that was a very profound experience for, like, Alice, not Alice. What was her name now? I got it. Doesn't matter. From Atlanta, in Georgia. Angel, and because how can I not remember that? Yeah, Angel. It was a lady that had the most incredible impact on me when she came and told her story and what happened thereafter. And it's these little things that when you're going back through it again in your book and you're looking at the edit, you think, how blessed are we?
Yeah. I mean, I have a bit of insider knowledge here, having helped Peter with some of these edits. So I do know there's over 100 pages, and these are like just hand selected stories. They're not even the extent of them, right? But these stories, and like I'm editing them and I'm looking at them and my jaw is dropped at some of them. Like, it's just like, is that possible? This is expanding my definition of reality in many cases. And so this is what I believe is one of the major benefits or blessings of the Pyramids of Chi. But I think, for people listening, especially if there's some people out there going like, what is this Pyramids of Chi? Because this is going to be on the internet, right? Anyone can listen to this. This might be an interview that was referred by a friend. Yeah. So I really want to hear the vision, the thing that started this. Every endeavor begins with a vision, and yours was quite literal, if I'm not to be mistaken.
It was indeed, Dave. And one of the things that often staggers me, I come very much from a business background. Started my own business after I left the airlines back in 1977. And it's always been about focus on things like a new car, a bigger property, a better boat at the marina, all those materialistic things, And that was what my life was about for many, many years. And I was very fortunate and had a very successful a number of businesses, probably from about 77 right up until 2013. And we knew that there was more to life than what was just about making money. There had to be a lot more. So back in 2006, Lynn and I actually retired. We had some incredible businesses overseas as well as back in Oz. But our dream was to spend time traveling around North America, get ourselves a nice big rig, and just tour all over there. We met some fantastic people, saw the most amazing sights. And one of the things I used to get a lot of from the Americans that we'd meet over there and the Canadians, I want to go to America, I want to go to Australia, I want to go and travel around your country, I want to see crocodiles and kangaroos and things. And I would say to them, no, don't bother. Go to New Zealand. You guys only get a week's vacation. So go somewhere where you can really see something.
Yeah.
Because in Australia, it's a little bit like traveling in New Mexico or Arizona or, Dakotas in some places. It's very barren in the centre. It hadn't got what, the US and Canada's got. So we made a lot of wonderful friends and associates over there. But back in 2013, after a number of years of touring around, Lynn had to have an operation on her eyes. And look, it was fairly simple. It was cataracts. Most people, once they've gone past 50, have to look at that challenge. We came back to Perth because, the one thing we do know about medical in North America is it's horrendously expensive.
Mm.
So we came back to Perth for Lynn to have the operation. Sadly, it all went pear-shaped. It didn't work. And the end result of that was that she was diagnosed with a thing called Fuchs dystrophy, FUCHS. It's a terrible thing. It's something where the eyeball fills up with fluid, and this has happened after the operation for the cataract.
Wow.
Fills up with fluid, and it's not until around about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon she can see properly out of the eye, because it's like looking through a shower screen, for much of the day. Anyway, we came up to Bali. We couldn't go back to America because our surgeon was saying to Lynn, look, you might have to have a corneal transplant. Right?
Corneal transplant.
Yeah. That was the only known cure for it, right? So, Lynn wasn't too excited about that. So we came
I think that's an understatement, right?
I don't want to look through somebody else's eyes, she says. Anyway, we came up to Bali. The surgeon said, look, let's give it a few months and have another look, see how it's traveling. We're up here, and back in 2004, I started to move into the spiritual path, and I discovered a lot during that time. And one of the things I discovered, which was really, really wonderful for me, is meditation. Having a meditation, particularly early in the mornings when the light hasn't even in many cases risen, maybe the sun's just coming up over the hills. It's a beautiful time just to be at peace. So one morning I'm having this meditation, and it's about 6 a.m, and all of a sudden, about a third of the way through it, I hear this voice. And this voice is, hand on heart, is as clear as I could ever say it could ever be. The words are, build 2 pyramids in Ubud. And I'm like shaking my head going, what? Building pyramids in Bali? Get real. I'm here looking after my wife and hoping her eyes are going to get a little bit better. Anyway, then I thought, I'm staying with some friends, Mark and Cheryl. And I thought, that's just Mark being an idiot again. So I turned around and said, Mark, wherever you are, knock it off, this is important. I'm doing a meditation. It's serious stuff. Stop being a jerk, So
yeah, because build 2 pyramids is kind of like something that somebody would say if they're making fun of you in a way, right? It's
exactly
pyramid spirituality, that type of thing, yeah.
And Mark was well known for being a bit of a drop kick when it came to things like, doing things like that. Anyway, Then I realised it was only 6, just after 6 in the morning. Mark never gets out of bed before 9 o'clock in the morning. I thought, well, maybe it's not Mark. So I go back to my meditation again, and very quickly I see an image in my mind's eye, and it's the 2 pyramids we have here. Same, exactly what we see here today as the 2 pyramids.
Same backdrop, everything.
Everything, mate.
Like if I took a photo
and
compared it to your mind's eye, they'd be identical.
It was, yeah. And bear in mind, I didn't have a clue what was going on.
Oh.
And I thought, maybe it's the sun shining through the leaves and the trees. But there were no trees, and the sun hadn't even got well and truly above the hills at that time. So I went back into Lynn, right, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, not knowing how to broach the subject. And I said to her, and you ladies out there, you'll like this next statement. Darling. And most women, when they get that sort of a statement made to them, it's usually, yes, what? What have you done now?
Yeah, what happened here?
What's going on? And I said, well, I've just done a beautiful meditation and been told we've got to build 2 pyramids here in Bali. What? Got to build 2 pyramids here in Bali. And she looks at me and she knows what I'm sort of slurring. She said, did you say pyramids, Peter? And I said, yeah, pyramids. Just meditation seemed pretty clear on what it's all about, So I told her all about it. And she said, well, I don't know. We don't even live here anymore. We're only staying here. It's a short stay, and we've got all our rig in America. We'd even sold our house off back in Australia a few years beforehand. So she said, oh, look, okay, let's see. Maybe it's your imagination. The way to test this is we'll do a bit of research, find out what it's going to cost to build 2 pyramids, right? And then we'll go and see if we can find some land. If we can find the land, then we'll know that, yes, it's not your imagination. If we can't find the land,
imagination.
That's it. It's all over. Dave, I was okay with that, because I'm still a little bit like this, I think pyramids in Bali, serious, Anyway, 2 days before we were due to leave to go back to Australia, I happened to be looking at some land not far from where we are right now, and I thought, no, that doesn't feel good. So I walked across the road and came to walk on the rice fields where this building is now and what it was beforehand, and it was just straight out rice field. Rice was growing there, and as I stepped onto this rice field, I got the goosebumps up the back of my arms. And in turning around to see Lynn and say something to her, her statement to me was, I just got exactly the same.
So it's like there's a telepathy almost. It's like she knew you were going to
I think it was more than telepathy. I think it was the energy. We both felt the energy of the land.
But she knew you felt it too.
Oh, yeah. Because, I was opening my mouth and she's going, I just got it too. So we made our way down here. And folks, we're sitting in one of our beautiful healing huts here right now.
We're on the property.
And if I look out the door here, I can see the river that we made our way down to have a look at. We get down here and, at that point, we both knew that if we were meant to build pyramids in Bali, we'd found our location.
Wow.
So we went back to the builder who was showing us the other property. We said, what about this land? Is it available for sale or lease or whatever? No. One of the wealthier men in the village owns it. He won't lease it to you. We said, will you at least ask him? And he says, no, waste of time. But one thing you learn about Balinese is they really do not handle confrontation at all. It's not their culture.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see it when you're riding a motorbike down the roads. They'll cut in and out of you, they'll weave, but no one gets upset. There's no such thing as road rage here. They don't do confrontation. Well, at this point, I thought, how am I going to get through to Nyoman that I want to talk to the owner of the land? So I raised my voice and I said, Nyoman, will you please ask him? Well, this was contrary to anything that I'd ever said to him before. He said, okay. That afternoon, I get the phone call. He wants to see you. The long and the short of this story is that, yes, he agreed to lease it to us at market price, which is quite amazing because, when you're a newbie in this country, they tend to look at you and go, okay, ATM on your forehead, we can afford to charge him a bit more, but no, market price. So we went back home and thought, well, we've got the land.
Mm-hmm.
We arranged to give him a deposit to secure the land for 3 months. All he had to do was turn off the subac. That's the water that comes to the rice fields, and allow the land to dry out. We've got 3 months now to head back to Australia and raise the money, right, to see if we can go ahead with this project that looks like the universe wants us to do. So we head off back to Perth, and the first person I went and saw, believe it or not, was my ex-wife's husband. And that went right back to 87, so I'd long since got over all of that. And Chris and Sue were good friends of ours. And I said, Chris, you're big in financial circles. How can I raise $1 million to get started building a couple of pyramids in Bali? Well, he grabs his red wine and starts choking on it. And he says to me, Peter, come on. Haven't you heard about the global financial crisis? I'm going, oh, Chris, come on. That was 6 years ago, mate. Come on, they've got over that by now, surely. And he looks me in the eye and he says, Peter, not for building pyramids in Bali, they haven't. Oh, okay, right. What do we do now? And I looked at Lynn and she sort of, I don't know. So we went home, and we'd been taught a thing back in 2004 when we moved on to the spiritual path. Maybe it was 2005 when we learned it. It's called automatic writing. It's where you've got to have a strong belief, all right? We're not religious, but we do have a strong belief in a higher power. You can call it the creator, you can call it God, universe, Krishna, spirit, whatever you like. But we have a strong belief in a higher power. So that's the prerequisite for doing automatic writing. So what you do is you sit down, you get a book. I'm right-handed, write the question out. In my case, God, if you want us to build pyramids in Bali, where's the money? A little bit tongue-in-cheek, but, hey,
God and money.
Come on, God. You can handle it. And then you put the pen in the left hand. Lynn's exactly the same. She wrote it out on her book. She goes into the dining room. I'm in the family room. And what you do is you wait for the words to come through, right? Each word that comes through, you've got to be in a meditative state. But each word that comes through, you write it with this non-dominant hand. Now, it's a bit tricky because this hand doesn't know how to write, doesn't know how to spell, doesn't know anything. If you're not careful, it's going to come out looking like a scribble. So you've got to be very careful in writing each word. And while you're focusing on writing that word, another word will come through, and then another word. You can't anticipate the words, you can't anticipate the sentence, right? Takes a bit of practice when you start. But on this particular day, it flowed quite easily. So then after about 20 minutes, Lynn comes out of the dining room and she says, look at this. And she shows me her book, and it said virtually, there are people here waiting to give you the money. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And she said, what did you get? And I showed her mine. And mine said, there are investors wanting to meet with you.
It's pretty identical.
Wow. Okay. So the message is there. So very quick, pen in hand. How do we find them? I'm thinking emails, telephone numbers. I don't mind, bump into them in the street, whatever. Well, then we put our pen in our hand and get the next word. And the next word was the same for both of us. 4 words rather. Don't spend much money. Don't spend much money? That's the words I use on Lynn when she goes shopping. Hasn't worked yet. And I looked at Lynn and she looks at me when we got this writing. We said, wow, this is incredible. But Dave, I've been in business for myself since I left the airlines in 77, had many different businesses. Sales and marketing is mainly the orientation that I've been in. But you know what? To raise $1 million doesn't happen without spending some money to find the investor, all right? And I'm very skeptical of this. But then Lynn comes back. She's the one with the logic, of course, typical woman, you know. Well, Peter, that was your writing. That was your writing. Don't spend much money. Okay. So we put our thinking caps on. We put an ad on a free website in Australia. It's called Gumtree.
Mm-hmm.
It is in Europe and many places. In America, it's called Craigslist. It's a free site. And then we put a little classified ad, picture of a couple of pyramids, Bali business opportunity, and a phone number, and put that in the local newspaper. And then we went, it's up to you now, Spirit. You want us to build pyramids in Bali? We only spent $40. Not bad, eh?
Mm.
So we thought, well, we'll see now. We'll see if it's meant to happen or not. Well, this is where I get really into woo-woo, all right? Because within 3 weeks, it's 3 weeks, we had $750,000, $750,000 pledged to us for building the pyramids of Chi in Bali.
No way.
3 investors. They didn't know each other. They didn't know us. But more important than that, not one of them looked at my business plan, which I'd spent 3 weeks working on. Not one of them looked at my business plan before they said, I'm in.
Wow.
Incredible.
So it was like Spirit was knocking on their hearts.
Well, obviously something was, you know, and we were just, we were in awe. They all invested $250,000 each for a 10% share.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, they are probably some of our best friends we've ever had and likely to have.
Mm-hmm.
We get messages from them all the time. How's it going? Great result last month, all things like that. They come up here regularly. And it's just such a beautiful feeling to know that we've got that connection. And even the way it happened, Lauren, our first investor, 5 kids, single mum, right? Had a love affair with Bali. She wanted to be involved in Bali. Had the funds, but didn't know how to get involved. Too nervous, obviously. Saw us, thought, yep, I'm in. And she's not a spiritual person as such, but obviously she's got her beliefs. The next one was even more extraordinary. That was Joe. Joe happened to be up in the stationery store that morning, Saturday morning, buying his son Tommy a book to do an exercise book to do his homework in. As he's walking out of the shop, he picks up the newspaper. All the way home, Tommy's giving Joe a hard time. And he's saying, Dad, you know, you eat raw food, you don't watch the news. I've never seen you with a newspaper. What's going on? And Joe said, I don't know. Maybe we've got to wrap something in this paper. I don't know. So he obviously just picked it up without knowing why. Came into his house, he threw that on the coffee table, went and did his Saturday morning chores. That afternoon, he's walking back through his lounge room area there, and sea breeze had come in, and of course below on the page is open. So you guessed it.
The classified.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Makes a phone call to us and said, can I come and see you? And I said, yeah, love to. So he comes over, he tells me the story about Tommy and the newspaper. After a short time, he says, he admits to me, you know, he's an out-of-work builder. I said, well, Joe, you know, we're looking for a $250,000 investment for a 10% share. He said, that might be a problem, Peter. That might be a problem. And if I like it, it won't be a problem. Said, wow, okay. So 40 minutes after we started talking, he looks at me and he says, yep, I'm in. And I looked back at him and I said, oh, Joe, what I'd like you to do is talk to your wife first, all right, before you make a final decision. He said, yeah, I guess I probably should, you know. And the next day, he makes a phone call to me and he says, look, Vicky's taking, I forget which day it was, but I think it was a Friday off, taking a day off work. We want to come and see you. I said, yep, no rush, no pressure, whatever suits you. Do your research. I'd sent him all the information all the way through to the business plan. And so on the day, he and Vicky rock up, and they're a really beautiful looking couple, in their early 30s, just very handsome, very beautiful. So in they walk, and I'm kind of expecting Vicky to say to me, look, Joe probably got a bit carried away, Peter. It's a lot of money. He's not working at the moment. Maybe we need to rethink this. And that's kind of my mindset at the time. Anyway, Lynn came and joined us, and so we chatted 40 minutes again, right? Vicky didn't ask us any questions about the project. All she asked was about Lynn and Peter. She was judging us, right? 40 minutes comes around, she looks at Joe, looks back at me, looks at Lynn and says, we're in.
Wow.
And we thought, unbelievable, So they left. We did the happy dance, well, we got our second investor. The next week we were entertaining Lauren and her mother up at a little place we had up in the hills. It was like a meditation centre that was a bit of a hobby, but it had gongs and things in there. And we'd asked around our bit of a database we had if anybody's interested in buying that. It's called the Quiet Cones in a bushland setting because, we knew we're heading for Bali, Well, we had a phone call from this lady who had been a couple of times to our place, and she said, yeah, I'd like to talk to you. I said, well, on Sunday we're going there. We're taking some other friends along, some people that are buying into it, into our Bali operation. Why don't we meet there and we'll have a session and we can talk afterwards. We met, we had a session. After that, Dawn and John went for a bit of a walk, only about a 10-minute walk. They came back and John said, yep, we'll take it. I said, you haven't seen any figures, you haven't seen anything. Doesn't matter, Peter, we'll take it. Obviously, he had the funds to afford it, and it wasn't a lot of money anyway. Anyway, we went up to the local tavern, right, because it's in the country outside of Perth, to have an Aussie lunch, And so we're sitting outside, 2, 4, 6 of us having our meal, and the topic, of course, turns to what's happening in Bali. So we start talking about it. And the interest level from Dawn and John has just gone right up to 9, 10, And they're asking some interesting questions about it. And then we'd had our lunch, we're due to head off, and John just says to me, he says, can you send me some information on this, Peter? I said, what, you've just bought the Quiet Cone, you're interested in Bali? Yeah, could be. As we're leaving, Dawn sidles up next to Lynn and says, we'll be in it, don't you worry.
Wow. So even without...
Yeah, but that was her. It wasn't John. John's a businessman in the couple, So I get back, race home, believe it or not, send off this information to both of them, and head for the airport. Because I'm, at that point, already booked to go back to America, sell our rig off, sell all the stuff we had accumulated over 7 years there, and then head back to Bali. 30 hours later, I'm unloading my laptop and setting it up and getting an email off to Lynn to say, look, I'm here, everything's cool, it's good. Ding, there's an email from John. Can you call me as soon as you're available? I looked at the time and I thought, yeah, he'll be up about now. So I made the call, right? And this is before WhatsApp. So I'm calling him, I think I called him on Viber or something. So I called him. He had 2 questions to ask me. One was about his self-managed super fund. Could he put some of that money in? And I can't even remember what the other one was, And I said, so what do you think of the business plan? He says, oh, I haven't even looked at that, mate. And he said, Pete, we're in.
Wow.
Send us the account details. So, within 3 weeks, we had 3 people pledging us that sort of money. So that's how it all started.
Basically, you're retired in America.
Yeah.
Got called back to Australia for a medical situation. Mm-hmm. Parked in Bali, so you'd be pretty close. Had a vision of these pyramids. Told it to Lynn. Lynn said, give a very logical answer and said, if we could find the money in the land, maybe this is meant to be. Yeah. You found the land before you went back to Australia. You go back to Australia and you find this hugely large sum of money from most people's perspectives. So at that point, what were you guys feeling like? Like, how was that?
We were quite ecstatic.
Yeah.
Quite ecstatic because you've got to realize that we were a little bit skeptical in the beginning, thinking, really? Building pyramids in Bali? And, when we told our family what we're going to do, they were even more skeptical, But then when we got that money, we knew that there was divine intervention happening.
Yeah.
We knew that this wasn't a make-believe story. This is for real. And we knew we had a task to do. And so we went back to Bali. I went back to America. I celebrated my 65th birthday that following week in America. And then caught the aircraft back to Perth, picked up, no, I didn't pick up then. Virtually undid everything that we'd had sort of locked up and put away and said, okay, what do we need to take to Bali? I headed off up here about 2 weeks before she was there and went looking for somewhere to rent, right? And then after that, we went looking for builders and architects and everything else. But we just had a strong, strong feeling that our path had been decided for us. It wasn't even our decision, it had already been done. When you get that sort of money coming through, the land coming through, the messages coming through, even selling our rig in America just went like that. It was just, it was meant to be.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that you're building something that doesn't typically get built in Bali.
Doesn't get built anywhere.
Or anywhere. So I imagine there's some unique aspects about the building process, but it happened in the end, as I can see from looking out of this building. So you managed to get through that. So you're basically doing something that was rather innovative. Did you guys have any challenges during that process, or was it pretty smooth sailing?
That's putting it bluntly. To start off with, nobody knows how to build pyramids. No. You don't look up the yellow pages and find pyramid builders, or even on the internet or anywhere else for that matter. So yeah, there were a lot of challenges in finding, the people that could build it for us. Of course, we're in a foreign country. We've got different culture, we've got different business, different languages, different everything here. So yeah, right from get-go, every day filled a bunch of challenges for us. But you know what? We would just hand it up. If it was something that we couldn't quite figure out ourselves, we'd hand it up and say, okay, God, Spirit, if you're listening, we need the answers. What do we do here? And you know what? It always came through. No matter what happened, it always came through. And that's what really drove us in a big way. The other thing that drove us was that, we already had investors. We secured a bunch more as well because it cost, quite a bit of money to set up. And we just had a real gut feeling that, we were being steered in the direction every day that we had to go. And I mean, even pyramids, when we put it to the local council, it's called the Gyanya Regency here, we had a hell of a job getting it through because there's no such thing as health and safety on a pyramid because you can't put a scaffolding around the outside. You got to build it from the inside out because scaffolding won't work on a pyramid. And so we went to battle over that. Um, and the fact that we were the first, not just the first in Bali, but the first in the world to build something like what we've been given, which is a sound healing center with instruments being played inside the pyramid, pyramid that's built according to sacred geometry. That means it's got an angle of 52 degrees at the base. The wall, there's always one wall facing exactly true north, not magnetic, but true north. That's what you had to conform to in order to get the sacred geometry and get the power of pyramids, which is very tangible. But to try and put all that into action was quite a challenge. I knew nothing about building pyramids. Thank God for the internet. But we managed, and despite all the challenges that we had, we now have more than two. We have 3 pyramids, and we have many, many other opportunities here for people to come, have sound healing, have relaxing times, have great food. Even our cafe, the roof is a pyramid shape aligned true north. So, and the biggest energy vortex on this land is right smack in the centre of the cafe. And we didn't even know about it until it was later divined with a pendulum by several different people. So we do know that everything that's been put before us has been put before us for a reason.
Right.
And that's what keeps us going constantly, knowing that we're on the right path. You mentioned before about the stories in our book. Gosh, readers, I could talk for the next 5 hours on the number of stories that I can tell about what people have experienced in that pyramid. And it is quite outstanding what happens to people when they go in there and they're relaxing, and the sounds, the energies, the vibrations, the frequencies, everything else that's happening. It does have some incredible results.
I didn't tell you this part because it was kind of recent, but when I was editing the stories and touching them up, I was just so moved by them that I immediately closed the computer and I ran over here and I hopped in for a 5 p.m. session because I was just like, if it can happen to them, it can happen to me.
Well, look what you're doing now. You're helping us to spread the word. You're part of the healing process.
Hey, look, I have to say that reading those stories will have a profound impact on people because it'll give them permission to take those bold steps in life, to accept that healing when they think they're hopeless, to mend those relationships that they think are impossible to mend. Because if the people that there's too many stories told in too many detail for it to be a fluke.
Well, that's the thing that staggers Lynn and I. It's not as though people are having the same sort of healings on a regular basis. They're not. Every story can be different, can be absolutely incredibly different. It's from, you read that story, I guess, of Hans, with his being visited by his son, in the pyramid that had been killed in a car accident. The lady, Angel, we're just talking about, and how she got a message from her children on the other side of the world that was just contrary to everything that happened to her before she had the session in the pyramid. It just goes on and on and on. Whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's emotional, we've had so many that people are just. I almost get a little bit blasé about them sometimes, which is naughty, because I think, I've heard that one before. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, but to that person, it can be quite profound. It can be life-changing in many cases. I had a Vietnam vet that has told Lynn to her face that, we saved his life. He was ready to top himself.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
He'd gone to such an emotional state. And I knew exactly what he was going through because, I had a brother that had done time in Vietnam, and he was a mess, and it was a sad war because, when the soldiers came home, they were greeted with derision, not with pride.
Yeah.
And so this guy was at a stage where life was pretty dark for him. His wife brought him up to Bali to try and cheer him up a bit. This was back in 2019. He went into the pyramids. He he just had a life-changing moment in there. He got a beautiful message from God to say, stop wasting your life. The war's long gone. What you did in the war is now behind you. It's history. You don't gain anything by looking over your shoulder all the time. You've got a beautiful wife, you've got kids, you've got grandchildren. Wake up to it. And he had shared a little bit about that with me back in 2019. And then I'd come down to, this little place down in the grass here, John's Tree, and I sat with him and I just said, look, life's pretty cool. It doesn't matter what age you are, things can happen. I told him how with us, we were 65 before we even got started on this journey. And anyway, he, after a good talk, some tears and beautiful hugs, away he went. So they were here last year, and his wife came up to Lynn and said, "Is Peter around?" And Lynn said, "Yeah, he's over there talking to a guest at the moment." And she says, "Well, my husband and I really want to talk to him." And so after I'd finished, Lynn had come over and said, I won't say their names. This couple from Queensland want to talk to you. And I said, great. And that's when it all came out, how now he's got purpose in his life. He's moved from Victoria to Queensland in Australia. They're living just down the road from one of their sons. He spends a lot of time with his grandchildren at sports and down the beach and stuff like that. Stuff he had not done, for 40 years, because of the dark hole that he was in. So, that's, I can't claim any fame for any of that. No responsibility. All I can say is that he was in the right place at the right time, and Spirit chose that particular time to shake him up, to talk to him, to give him a message. And we're just so grateful and blessed that we have what we have here, to be able to witness that when it does happen.
It must have been interesting through that whole journey, because that vision kind of came out of nowhere. Then you went on a trail that, you could only see one step ahead of you almost, right? It was like, what's that next thing we need? Then somehow this thing that's never been built before gets built. Then you open your doors, and then you're like, when all these people start coming in and having these incredible experiences. Do you find that now it's becoming clear as to why this is meant to be? Or did you always feel like you had?
No, not now. What we've found, that within a matter of a month or two, Dave, we knew that we were on the right path.
Yeah.
Because we saw the results that were happening, and there's so many things that happened. And folks, I encourage you, get the book when we bring it out soon. Expect the unexpected, because it's all in there.
It's wild. Like there's stuff that you'll think they must be making it up, but there's so much of it. You're like, wait, maybe this actually happened. And for you're sitting back there nonchalant, like, yeah. And then there was this person, and they met this, and then this woman was levitating, and
and that's.
I don't want to give away too many of the goodies, but
that's what's so beautiful, folks, is that I was a dyed-in-the-wool business person. How much money can I make? What toys can I buy? All this sort of nonsense, Now, boy, have we got grounded. From a massive house in Perth on 6 acres to a beautiful yacht in the marina to driving the latest Beamer, all those sorts of things. Now, we don't even have a car. Having a car up in this country is hopeless because the roads are not that good. So we ride a motorbike, Lynn said to me this morning, she said, I can't believe 10 years as a pillion passenger. This has got to set some sort of record, And so we laughed about it, sitting on the back of a motorbike, going shopping, going to work, whatever. We live in a 2-bedroom villa with a swimming pool, which we hardly ever use for some reason, probably because of skin cancers that I've been sadly inflicted with because of too many years on the water and sailing and whatever. But we got dogs. We got the most wonderful history with dogs since we've been here. Whether they're off in the rice fields and we can see them down the rice fields playing, or whether they just all gather around us when we're watching a movie at night time, doesn't matter. Here in Bali, it's an unfortunate thing that happens, Dave, and that is that um, there's a Balinese breed of dog here. Beautiful dog, super intelligent. Not a very big dog, but uh, very friendly and very affectionate. Anyway, what happens is that the locals here, in many cases, cannot afford to sterilize their dogs, so they let their dogs have puppies, right? And then when that's finished, what do they do with the puppies? They might try and get rid of them through conventional means. They might dump them. They might try and take them along to one of the rescue centres, which is always full with puppies. And we can't walk past a bag or a box with some puppies, crying in there because someone's decided that they've just got to get rid of them, or kittens for that matter. And so we've taken them home. We've rescued to date well over 250 dogs here in Bali, puppies 9 times out of 10. 99 times out of 100. We've rescued some old ones, but basically the young ones. We've managed to get them adopted in many cases, but at one stage we had 9 at home. So nature takes its course, and we're back down to a lot less than that now. But they are such a beautiful creature here in Bali to surround ourselves with. With the home, we have 2 walking around the cafe constantly, walking around the circle when we do our full moons. They're part of pyramids of chi, and their energy, their love, their affection rubs off on so many people.
Wow.
It's they just go from table to table, and if we find one of the dogs squatted down with his head on someone's foot, we'll know straight. I can go straight up to that person and say, "Oh, you're a dog lover. How did you know?" It's there. They say, "Oh yeah, I love dogs," or they might say, "Look, I lost my dog a few months ago, and this beautiful dog, what's its name?" I say, "India. India's giving you comfort." And she said, "Oh," and they'll say things like, "Well, maybe I do need to go and get another dog. Maybe I've got to, let go of the fact that I've lost such and such and have another dog." So it's part of life here, and the energy that exists here just is so exciting. It is so exciting. I mean, I just celebrated 75 years young, and people say, "Peter, you don't look that age." I don't feel it because I'm surrounded all the time by good energy, by lovely people. Look, sure, we've had our share of skeptics here. They never leave as a skeptic. Hand on heart, folks, I can guarantee you they never leave as a skeptic.
Yeah.
Right? Because I take it as a mission, and I go to work on them. And no matter what happens between me going to work, the pyramids, spirit, whatever, they leave, often shaking their head saying, "What you got in there, but you got something."
Yeah.
So, that's kind of the joy of being here, knowing that every day there's something special going to happen.
It really sounds like too that by walking this path and going through this process before, like you said, you're more interested in the material wealth, but now what you described really sounds like you have true richness and abundance in your life. You have deep, heartfelt connections with people from all over the world. You have these heartfelt connections with the dogs and the puppies, and you get to be in a place that's just got good energy and good vibes where miracles and transformations are happening on a regular basis. And that's not, embellishing anything. That's actually true.
It's a fact. It's a fact, Dave. I mean, I laugh about it sometimes, and I think 12 years ago, I would have said, "There's no way that I'm going to be doing what I'm doing now." If someone had suggested that's your path in life, I'd say, "No, rubbish. Come on." I've got a funny story that I quite often share with people, and that is that And you've seen the sort of customers we get. We get every kind of customers from the geriatrics to the really young. Right? We're not child friendly here because we got a lot of rather interesting retaining walls and water and all the rest of it. But
my daughter navigates and she's
she
just
she does, yeah. But what we do know is that we attract some really, really wonderful people. Well, we've got one table up at the cafe that is one of our bigger tables. And one day I'm sitting at this table and there's 5 really, really gorgeous looking young ladies there. And I'm just telling them our story of, a lot of people like the story of how did it all start. And so I'm chatting to them. And someone walked past and they took a photo of me in full flight, mouth wide open. And all the girls in front of me all go, oh, like that. And normally when that sort of thing happens, Lynn goes past, she just rolls her eyes and says, there he goes again, chatting to the girls. Anyway, this person that took the photo, I don't even know to this day who it was, sent me a copy of it, right? So now I have it on my computer and I've got written across the bottom, you call this work, okay? Because I get friends in America, friends in Australia, friends in Canada, friends in New Zealand, different places that I've lived, saying, Peter, can't believe you gave up your retirement to go back to work. And I tell you what, it's not work.
Yeah.
It's not work. Not when you're sitting talking to a couple or a group or even just individuals that have maybe tried to find their way in life. It's beautiful.
After reading the book
Mm-hmm.
over and over, I think the one thing that lands with me is that life doesn't need to be as hard as many people make it out to be. And that if you make one scary, potentially difficult seeming decision to make that long journey from the head to the heart and live from that place, life can unfold very easily and can emerge in a way that's well beyond the limitations of what we currently imagine it could be.
Sure.
And
one of the things that we often say here, which brings it back to the individual, is if you come here on a full or a new moon night, we have a shamanic session around the fire pit, and during that we talk about a case of what we call calling in the 4 directions, right? Now the 4 directions are, you face north, south, east, and west. The last of the directions that we face is north. And when we're calling in the spirit of the north, we're also calling in the totem animals and birds of the north, right? The buffalo, the bear, and the elk, right? And the buffalo and the bear and the elk, because in early days the north was mainly, the northern populations, and it always heralded winter and the darker times and the times when it could be a little bit hardship, a lot of hardship around. Anyway, the buffalo, bear, and the elk signify wintertime in our lives, the times when it can get dark, right? And then I turn at the last minute and I say, but at the end of that comes the hummingbird. Now here's a little bird, you can't even feel its weight in the palm of your hand. It can fly in any direction at any one time, right? But it heralds spring. And in spring is light, right? And so the message to people standing around that circle, and we'll have an average of 60 people, and the message to every one of those people is purely and simply, look, even when times get tough, get dark, and it could be many, many reasons for it happening, there's always light at the end of that tunnel. Always light, right? And so look for it. Don't dwell on what's going wrong, dwell on what's coming, and that tends to be one of my strong messages that I often give out to the guests here. My main message is don't trust that stuff that keeps your ears apart. Right? It's a computer.
Yeah.
Information in, information out. Right? But don't rely upon it for any decisions. That's what you rely upon for your decisions, your heart. Whenever you've got to make a decision on anything, ask your heart if that feels right. If it doesn't feel right, if there's any doubts, don't do it. Because I wish someone had told me that 40, 50 years ago. It would have made life a whole lot easier. But it's a fact, and when you do listen to your heart, and that's what we've done for a number of years, Lynn and I, and you know what? We don't make mistakes. On Monday, we're coming up to 29 years that we've been together. In 29 years, we've only ever had 2 times we've gone to sleep without saying goodnight to one another. In 29 years, all right? Now, you might say maturity is a result, whatever it is, I don't know. But, we respect each other, we put each other first. But what's important is all our decisions come from here. And we live, eat, and work, sleep together 24/7. We're joined at the hip, so we're quite proud of the fact that it can be done. So if you're in a dark space, maybe with a partner, maybe with a family member, maybe at work, whatever, just know, and I've been there, folks. I have been there. Both Lynn and I were betrayed by our partners, and then many years later we met. But regardless of all that, when we met, we just knew that we were meant to be together. And it was the strangest of circumstances the way we even came.
Yeah.
If you want to know that, read the book.
Read the book.
Because that will really blow you away with
And speaking of the book, by the time, this podcast is released, you'll be able to probably go to the link below that we've included in the description and secure yourself a physical copy or a digital copy of the book.
Wonderful.
We're also working on an audio version as well. So there's going to be many different ways to consume this because we really want this story to get out there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It's too important not to, Dave.
Yeah.
Because there's so many messages that we're getting at the moment. It's not just about coming along, laying down in a pretty unique structure and meditating or relaxing. No, it's a lot more than that.
Right.
It's about looking for messages as to where is your life leading? What is possible out there for you or for your family members or your friends or whatever? Because people get messages every day in the pyramids, every day. And sometimes they'll come to me and they'll say, Peter, I got this message. What does it mean? And I say, it's not for me, it's for you. But let's thrash it out and see if we can figure out what maybe should be your actions from here. Really, what it's up to us is ourselves individually to take the time to look for those messages. I get angry when all I hear is, oh, yeah, but if this had happened, that had happened. People that play the blame game. Blame game doesn't serve any purpose at all. When you're looking backwards, you can't see what's up in front of you there.
Yeah.
It's, and that wasn't my phraseology. That's been around for centuries, I'm sure. But it's a fact. We have got that opportunity to look ahead of us, and that's what we need to do, folks. Be focused on, what can really happen in my life. I mentioned my age. I still plan on doing a lot before I leave this planet. A heck of a lot, right? So I'm not ready to sort of resign myself to playing golf and reading books or something, So there's never a time when you should say, well, it's enough, I'm out of here. And please don't use the excuse, I haven't got time, because that really ticks me off. Right? You can always make time. And people that use that phrase, I'm just killing time, well, go and top yourself. Because I'll tell you now, that's never going to come back again. Killing time is one of the worst phrases ever invented, right? Mm-hmm. Spend your time, joyfully. Spend your time appreciating what's around you. We had a situation happen with our when the pandemic hit. Lynn and I decided that, what, we're going to smile at everybody because so many people are upset. So many people had hangdog looks. So many people are critical of the fact that, life's not looking after them. Pandemic had some terrible results. So we smiled at everybody. And even to now, I mean, we go somewhere in our motorbike, we smile at the lady on the side of the road, we smile at people on the other bikes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's good now because they're not wearing masks, so you're not just relying on the eyes to see whether they're smiling or not. And we've had a number of people come to me, Balinese, Indonesians, of course, and foreigners that are here, and they say, "Thank you for that smile. That actually means a lot to me today." So, folks, if you take nothing apart from that out of this podcast, smile, because it sure improves your face value and it helps a lot of people.
Peter, I love the way that you can use your story to pull out these gems of simplicity for people's lives. They're easy things to remember. Lead from your heart, not your head. All you got to do is smile. And that basically if you focus on the light, you can get through those darker periods.
Totally.
It's been wonderful chatting with you. Wonderful to hear. Again, there's even a couple details you threw in here that aren't in the book, but there's a lot in the book that were not in this conversation. Yeah. A lot of stuff is in that book that will really change your perspective on reality and really inspire you. It's just so heartwarming to read. So if you want to get your hands on a copy, the link's in the description below. And is there anything else you'd like to say before we conclude here?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Look, Expect the Unexpected was written because not only did I love telling people what it was about, but I never had enough time to tell people of the most amazing things that have brought us to this point where we are right here and now, right? And that's what the book delivers. You know, from when I first left the airlines and the different pointers that happened to me over my life to bring me to where I'm in a healing position with many people. And what I encourage people to do is to look at your own lives, look at what's happened, why things might have happened to give you some direction, right? Because I was no different from most of the people in the street. You know, I was focused on material things. You know, I was very judgmental of people, which is so wrong. Now everything's different. But from here, I could not ask to be a happier person than what I am. I could not ask. And that's what I want to give everybody. Please, please be happy. All right.
What a note to end on. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening to this amazing podcast.
Thank you.